Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's Bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had, impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Magic. I am your host, Cathy Hackl. This is the podcast where we talk about innovation, technology, AI, spatial computing, and everything in between. I am joined by Lee Kebler. Lee, how are you?
I'm great. Had a really fantastic week. Yeah, just glad to be back.
Weren't you in Canada or something?
I was. Yeah, we took a little bit of a trip. It was kind of like, people who go out on vacation just on the weekends, weekend warriors or whatever. We did the week and we got ourselves up to Victoria Island, Vancouver Island. It was gorgeous. It was nice to kind of get away, but not be completely off the grid, but still be in nature. Yeah, had a great time.
Amazing. Yeah, I saw the photos. They looked amazing. You brought your doggy, Beanie.
Yes.
So Beanie had a great time. It looked like it.
Yes. Beanie goes everywhere with us.
I love
and
it.
She's a better traveler than I am, to be totally honest.
Oh, no.
She doesn't get she's the chillest dog. You can take her anywhere. There should be more dogs like Beanie, I think.
That was my hope for Arthur, my dog, who people from the podcast already know from his barks. That was my hope that he was going to be like a travel dog. He does not like it at all. So those dreams, it never came true, but that's okay. That's okay. All right. So we've got a lot to talk about during this episode. So I'm going to start. If anyone was listening to the last episode, they know that we had our quote unquote predictions for the Apple event that just happened. And we had our chips on different colors. And I will be the first one to tell you, Lee, you were right. You won the bet.
Mm-hmm.
You were right. There were no big Vision Pro announcements, no content, and really very minimal. Probably mentioned 3 or 4 times. I mean, the word spatial was mentioned quite a bit, but more around audio, some stuff around video. But let's get into it. So anyway, congratulations, Lee. You won the bet.
Yeah, it was I don't know. It's a sad win. I was hoping I was wrong, but here we are. And it is what it is. I don't know when we're going to hear the next update about the Vision Pro or, changes in the Vision OS, or I don't know.
Well, they've been doing updates. They've been doing updates to Vision OS. So James Ashley, who does Vision Pro development for CVS, I follow him on LinkedIn and he's always talking about that. Alex Columb as well. So there have been updates, right? Vision OS and stuff, but nothing, I would say, that big. But maybe let's talk a little bit about the Apple event and some of the big announcements. So obviously they talked about AirPods, new AirPods, AirPods 4, I believe they're called, the AirPod Pro, more and more spatial audio. I thought that was really interesting that they're, talking further about spatial audio. So it was exciting. And then obviously the big thing that came from it was the iPhone 16, which is their first phone created with Apple Intelligence from the get-go. So what do you think? Are you excited or do you just feel like it's just another phone?
I think it's another phone. I really do. Now, and this sounds disingenuous for me to say it's just another phone, because this is the playbook that Google's been going on for years, where it's not about the hardware, it's about the software. And this is kind of the direction Apple went for the first time. And the 16 is like, their goal is that the software is what is like AI, Apple Intelligence injection into the phone is going to make it a new special device. And I kind of get it, because really, what else are you going to do with a phone hardware wise other than like mediocre spec bumps? That being said, with their current fights with the EU, and they just lost like a $13 billion lawsuit with Ireland, like how fast this stuff's going to roll out is also in question. You might just be getting a barely spec bumped iPhone. It might not ship with all of the software that they're talking about. That's unlike Apple. I understand the predicament that they're in, or let me correct, the predicament they've gotten themselves into. They'll have to kind of dig themselves out on this one, but this is kind of the first iPhone where I don't know if anyone's like clamoring for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. That's the thing. I mean, you and I, like, we're tech people. Like, for me, like, the Apple events are like Lollapalooza, right? Like, I'm joining, I'm listening. It's super exciting. But I definitely feel that as we move further, like, I'm going to be honest, like, it was hard for me to get excited. And that doesn't normally happen.
I don't even know if Apple was excited. Like, there wasn't a bunch of fanfare behind this event. And as we look at the actual, I'll tell you what I'm actually surprised by. And maybe this is a hardware issue, but the fact that they so quickly have taken the iPhone 15 off the line kind of surprised me, because they normally kind of hold both generations there and one becomes more discounted or whatever. But as I'm reading through like updates and things like that, there's a look at a full retirement of the iPhone 15, which tells me it's probably about the same phone, just with new software. That's just going to take time. Even the AirPods were just like, I mean, cool, but I don't know if it's going to get anyone to update from the AirPods or the AirPods Pro to the newest version. You know, it just doesn't feel as inspired as what I'm expecting Meta to come at us with. I'm notoriously a very kind of wet blanket person when it comes to tech companies. So, you know, a Meta fanboy or an Apple fanboy or a Google fanboy for that matter. I bounce between all of these different technologies, but I do kind of go where the innovation goes. And I don't know if I saw it at this Apple event.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to get excited. I agree with you. Part of me, you know, I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max, which I bought because I wanted to shoot spatial video, right? That was literally the reason I bought the phone more, you know, got upgraded to the phone. And I'm like, do I want to move into the 16? I'm like, do I need to? Maybe I do. I don't know. So there's a part of me like, I'm not running out to pre-order anything right now from Apple or get anything. That being said, you bring up a really good point about Meta and Meta Connect. So Andrew Bosworth, who's the CTO of Meta and has been running, you know, Reality Labs for a long time, he does these AMAs on Instagram almost weekly. I don't know if he does it weekly, but he does it quite often. And yesterday on Monday, he did an AMA, and one of the questions was around, you know, what he thought about the new iPhone. And he was like, it's just another phone. And then he had another question that someone posted about, you know, is mixed reality going to replace mobile phones? In his AMA, he said not mixed reality, really does think that augmented reality is going to change. And he alluded to groundbreaking things that we're going to see at Meta Connect at the end of the month, right? So I think, once again, and we said this last week, you and I talked about this, I really think Meta is going to give us a really interesting mostly hardware, but hardware/software surprise at Meta Connect. And I think it's going to blow things out of the water. It's going to present potentially a new path forward for how some of this technology is going to develop.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things to keep in mind here. When it comes to him talking specifically about how augmented reality, people are becoming impressed with what they've seen on the augmented reality side of what they're going to debut at the next Meta Connect. That comes on the heels of them saying we aren't going to support or even continue the Spark AR platform. So to me, that says, okay, if they're really pushing into the AR space and they're ending Spark, we may see a new platform announcement, which I'm super excited about. And maybe that's because there was a strong feeling of a rug pull when they pulled out of Spark, especially for a lot of studios who had built their livelihood on it. So perhaps we're going to see, okay, if you're this serious about augmented reality, what does that mean for your platform? Like how to develop it, how to build it? Because Spark was not cutting it. As someone who worked on Spark, it was a difficult tool, but it was the tool that we had. So we're really hopeful to see some semblance of like a new software alignment, if not with them, with another company that like will help us build the right tools. Because what they have proven, what Meta has proven to be really good at is the hardware. Hardware is hard. I don't think people really understand how absolutely convoluted and complex hardware production is, just production. For a company that has been so digitized, right, they haven't really built a lot of software themselves. They've purchased a lot of software and made it better, right? They purchased Instagram. Even they purchased, I think, the Spark baseline technology and all of that. They purchased WhatsApp, the things that they're known for. I think I make a joke, and this isn't entirely true, but like the last thing that they ever actually developed was Facebook. But even Oculus turned into Meta and the Quest, and their operating system is running on Android. And they had tinkered around with the idea of building their own OS, but then they finally just decided, no, we have something that's functional, that is well supported. We're going to continue with this Android approach. And so they put their effort into making really stellar, affordable hardware. And I think the companies they've given a run for their money aren't necessarily Apple, but I look at from the hardware side, they've done a really good job like Google has. And from the software side and from the gaming side, I think they're giving Steam and Nintendo a run for their money. I really do, because they found a niche. Not that Steam's in trouble, not that Nintendo's in trouble. That's a foolish thought. But from a VR perspective, they're dominating when it comes to that. And if they can do the same thing in the AR space with their correlation with Ray-Ban, it's going to be game over. I mean, they're doing the things no one else are doing, so they are the best at it, right? Like that's the key that they've unlocked is who isn't doing this and how can we do it really well?
How can we do it better? And then you bring up a point on their acquisitions on the hardware side. Like when's the last time they acquired a hardware company that we kind of have talked about? I mean, my mind goes back to, I guess, a couple years ago when they acquired Control Labs, which was doing neural interfaces, like a bracelet that would interpret your where you wanted to move, your hands, like, that kind of, it wasn't even brain computer interface because it was more neural interfaces. So, that I can't wait to see how they're going to, I mean, they've already integrated some of that obviously into the headset, into the Meta Quest, but I feel like I'm just really hopeful, Lee, that they're going to wow us at Meta Connect with AR glasses that start to truly send us into that Jarvis territory, Jarvis from Marvel and, Iron Man.
I've said it so many times. If they can just give us closed captioning for the world, I'm there, right? I have yet to buy the Meta Ray-Bans because I don't have them.
You don't have them? Why? That would have been so good for your Canada trip. You have Instagram.
I do have Instagram, but I don't have like a strong desire to make that kind of content, right? Like that's just not, I don't know. It's in the back of my mind. It's not ever something that I think about. And I think there's a lot of people who are like that. I'm just not a very photographic person. I don't like to document my life as it goes on, but I like technology to enhance my personal experience. And I don't think that that's what the Ray-Bans currently do. I do not think that the Ray-Bans currently enhance your personal experience. I know that they've got the built-in audio and you can like access your calls, AI, things like that.
You can take calls, you can listen to music. Yeah. Kind of Bose did that way back though, a couple years ago. So that to me isn't like novelty.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't have a strong use case for that. But if they can start augmenting those lenses, even in the most rudimentary fashion, even if it's as simple as what Google Glass was attempting to do in 2014, I'm there. I think that is enough to actually like tip the scales for me. Now, I've bought every headset they've ever made.
If they give us,
yeah, even the Pro.
Even the Pros, which you've talked about extensively, which I'm like, I didn't even own one of those. Absolutely not. I think if Meta comes to the party with some type of, even if it's minimal, see-through AR of some sort in really cool, stylish glasses, that is the beginning of a new paradigm in hardware that I'm really excited about. And as someone that's worked in hardware for many years, I started, I worked at HTC Vive, I worked at Magic Leap. Like these were hardware companies. They aren't, one of them is moving away from hardware, but hardware is incredibly hard. And the fact that they can innovate, still doing all their software and all the stuff that they've done, right? But still dedicate time to the hardware and potentially bring us something that can give us see-through AR. I'm excited. Like, I don't think I've been this excited about a Meta Connect in a very long time. Or it used to be called, Oculus Connect when it was only for Oculus. and then Facebook Connect, and now it's all Meta Connect.
I've been excited for every one of their connects. I really have.
Really? Wow.
I've been mildly disappointed in the past, at some of them, but they've always come with something that even if I was expecting it, I'm just glad to see it. And that, I think that's where Apple used to be for me, which is really wild to be on the flip side of that conversation. I mean, I used to be that way. You go back to the 2010 era of Google and they were doing these conferences and they were always releasing something that was like earth shattering. It's very interesting to see Facebook turn into Meta and start doing the same thing. I don't think I would have predicted that 15 years ago. Like, there's just no way that I was going to think that a social media company was going to come out and do something wild.
I know you and I probably saw each other at Meta at Oculus Connect when it used to be Oculus Connect. That was my yearly pilgrimage. I mean, that was the one developers conference I was going to be at every single year. So now they've all brought it all together. But definitely, you and I definitely hung out at several Oculus Connects, if I'm not wrong.
I think I probably at least one. We've seen, I don't know. That's the funny thing about me and Cathy, for those who don't understand the history of this show, is like we both kind of started hitting the ground running in different ways in this technology space about 15 years ago at this point. I don't know. And we just kept, I feel like we just kept bumping into each other. Like, consistently until we just ended up working together. It just was the technological fates. Yes.
The universe wanted us to work on something and it eventually happened. And now here we are with Tech Magic podcast. Okay, so we're going to go on break. When we get back, Lee, I definitely want to continue talking a little bit about some of the things that Apple talked about when it relates to spatial video and visual intelligence, which they brought to us, other than Apple Intelligence. There's visual intelligence. So
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Hello, it's Brooke Devard from Naked Beauty. Join me each week for unfiltered discussion about beauty trends, self-care journeys, wellness tips, and the products we absolutely love and cannot get enough of. If you are a skincare obsessive and you spend 20 plus minutes on your skincare routine, this podcast is for you. Or if you're a newbie at the beginning of your skincare journey, you'll love this podcast as well because we go so much deeper than beauty. I talk to incredible and inspiring people from across industries about their relationship with beauty. You'll also hear from skincare experts. We break down lots of myths in the beauty industry. If this sounds like your thing, search for Naked Beauty on your podcast app and listen along. I hope you'll join us.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
let's go on break. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about some of the announcements from the Apple event around spatial video. So some of I think it's the new iPhone 16 can shoot spatial photos and I believe some spatial video. I'm not sure on that one, but spatial is coming to more and more devices, which I think is really exciting. So what do you think about that? Like, do you think the next step is enabling more devices to do spatial? And then is it going to be screens doing spatial?
I hope it's not screens doing spatial.
Oh, okay. Why? Like, why are we so negative about this?
Because it's always been bad. It was bad when we tried to do 3D TV, and even like, and this is going way back, in the gaming culture era, but like the 3DS that Nintendo put out was functionally a very interesting device. The fact that it could do 3D on a flat screen, but no one used it. Like, it just was very gimmicky. And then I even remember Red cameras trying to put out a phone.
Yes. The red phone. It had like a dot. I remember it had like a red dot, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And they tried to do this spatial flat screen. And it has just historically not been how people interact with their handheld devices. If you're going to do spatial, it needs to be in something that augments your actual vision. Otherwise, you're looking at a 3D world at a 2D device that is mimicking a 3D world, and it is unsettling, is the only way I can describe it. It just doesn't feel right. So no, I don't think we're going to see anything like that anytime soon from Apple. I don't think that they would invest that type of R&D into their screens. Maybe they'll get a little bit of the like gyroscopic tilt to the spatial pictures. But again, that's something that Facebook did almost a decade ago. So I hope they continue focusing on making the hardware that can make the content and letting us decide where we want to view that content, whether that's in an Apple Vision Pro or a Quest headset or, something else. But I just don't see it being on a flat screen.
One thing that I do think with them enabling more devices to do spatial photos and spatial video is that does open up opportunities for creators, right? To experiment with the format that they might have not been able to do before. So in that sense, I'm excited to see who embraces this. What are they going to do with it? It's early. Like you and I have talked about this. It's really early on in the spatial computing days. But I'm excited to see how more and more creators start to embrace that. I wonder if at MetaConnect, we're going to have maybe some peeks into how some of these creators are going to use spatial video within Oculus. Like, that's separate from Apple, of course. But I don't know. I feel like as a content format, I'm excited about it in general across multiple hardware.
It's not separate from Apple, though, because the smart thing that Meta has done is they've not tried to own the format. And so they're showing support to the Apple devices, spatial videos and spatial photos. So it's the right thing to do to say, okay, you created a good format here. This is something that you're going to be creating content on. We want to support that format. That's not something we've historically seen from tech companies in the past who always want to own like the MPEG-4, format or whatever it is that they're trying to push down your throat. But it is the right way if you're trying to sell hardware, because that means that now there's not a walled garden behind that content that Apple owners create. And I do agree with you. It is with what the creators do with it. We saw this with like Snapchat and filters, right? The original OGs of filters was Snapchat. And
it's true. The puppy ears. Remember the puppy ears?
Oh, yeah.
That's like old school.
Our old friend Phil Walton, who created the potato filter that got such notoriety and fame. Who would have thought the future was a potato? But it was about the creativity that people leverage the technology to output. And I'm really hopeful that we see that here as well. I was never the creative type that could come up with a good filter idea, but that doesn't mean there isn't value to it. While I'm not sure what I would do with spatial content creation, I know that there's going to be creators that come up with things that I would have never dreamt up, and I'm looking forward to seeing that.
So fun fact, there was once a filter called the Cathy Hackl filter that someone created for me. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
Someone created that for me as a gift. I was like, I feel flattered and humbled. So yeah, there was the Cathy Hackl filter. Amazing. I don't know where that is anymore, but yeah, there was a Cathy Hackl filter. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about also during the Apple event, they talked a lot about how Apple Intelligence on the phone is going to help you with action. They didn't say large action models. They didn't really use the word large language models either. They used AI, machine learning, and Apple Intelligence. But they talked about action. So I think they're alluding to these large action models. One of the parts where I did get a little excited, I will say, is when they talked about visual intelligence. So using the device to identify, a restaurant and reviews and booking a table, or seeing something you want to buy, or adding something to your calendar, or, just, things like that, which Google Lens has been doing some of that for a while. Like that to me isn't necessarily innovative. And I think it starts to show the path forward for large vision models and how the computer vision and visual side, in my perspective, is a really big, important part of the puzzle when you talk about AI's future and where these large models are going to go.
It is. And again, this does feel like Google was 5 years ahead, which does make sense as they're a search engine. So that's where they would put their value in first. I remember the first time I used Google Lens to identify a plant that was in my backyard, and I didn't know if it was like invasive or not. And that just kind of blew my mind. It's like, oh, I should get rid of this thing because I was able to take a photo of it and I was able to recognize what it was. I've also done that on my iPhone through Google Apps. So this feels a lot like Google Maps versus Apple Maps. And while Apple Maps is now a perfectly fine system, it took way too long to get there. I don't know. Until we use it, we really won't know how powerful it is. It may be the most amazing thing that they've ever put out because they are putting out really solid hardware and software. I don't think it'll be as big of a catch-up as we saw with Apple Maps. It might not be a catch-up at all. It might be a complete world leap. I agree with them not talking about the large action models. I think that's more of a marketing ploy because if you do it right, that's just a natural part of all of this. That's how it should work. So why
label it? Why do you need to put a term in to identify it? That's a very, very good point.
Yeah. And I've always appreciated Apple's approach to Apple Intelligence AI because that has been it. If we do this right, it'll just function like you've always wanted your phone to function and it won't do anything above and beyond that. That's a healthy approach to me as a consumer level of like this new concept of technology. Otherwise, I think you just scare users into, you either scare users or you get people into a zeitgeist of like buzzwords that they already are uncomfortable with using. So I don't know. That's what I think they're doing right, which is actually not talking about it in a way.
Well, they're leaning into Apple Intelligence, which I'm like, okay, very smart of them, Anyway, I do want to talk about a couple other things. Moving on from Apple, I do want to give a shout out to our friends at Snap who have the Snap Summit coming up next week in Santa Monica. I got invited. I was going to attend, but I might have to go to Charlotte. So I'm still on the fence if I'm going to be there in person. So I'll let you all know, Snap, if I'm coming. But I'm excited to see what they're working on. I mean, I feel like Snap is kind of an unsung hero of sorts in this whole thing. Because I'll tell you, like, my kids aren't, because I'm like super controlling tech mom in that sense. But most of their friends are on Snapchat, right? They're communicating through Snapchat. I feel Snapchat is still incredibly relevant for Gen Z and the up and coming Gen Alpha. So I'm really interested to see what they tell us at Snap Summit.
I'm always in the background wondering what Snap is doing because while they don't have the footing that I think that they would hope to have in the US, they do have it globally. Even more so, the amount of intellectual property they're sitting on, self-developed, like they have got to have the best facial recognition algorithms on the planet. Like a company that, as we just talked about with Meta, a company that's doing great in hardware but is relying on everyone else in software, they're doing great in software and kind of relying on everyone else on hardware. I think that they've got really fantastic software and development tools, and it's just a question of how they leverage it to become the most, profitable company that they possibly can. But that has also been the question for the last 5 years that a lot of people have asked.
As a shareholder, as a Snap shareholder, I wonder that myself. So yeah, I don't know.
I'm in the same boat. We are Snap shareholders and just are like, I believe in the software that they've worked. I know that they've got value. I do not know what the long-term game plan is for it because I don't see them necessarily turning into a Meta, Google, Apple size company. But I didn't see Meta turning into a Meta-sized company either. So like they've got powerful software. What the future holds for them is still unknown.
Yeah, we'll have to see. So we'll keep our eyes on what Snap's going to, announce at Summit. And thanks again, Snap, for inviting me to be there. I do want to, as kind of our last item, not last item, because I know there's some gaming stuff we want to get to before we wrap up. But I want us to talk about the Roblox Developers Conference, everything that went down, not everything, because there was a lot. That was a long, amazing keynote. But some of the things that came out of it, I do want to start by congratulating our friends at Walmart, Justin Breton. Once again, Justin, if you're listening to this podcast, please, we need to have you on. Walmart won an award for Walmart I never remember the name. Rediscovered.
Oh, Discovery or Discover, Walmart Discover.
Their new world, which I always forget, which Sawhorse created and is amazing, but I never remember the name. So they won an award for that. They were, Walmart was front and center at RDC. So congratulations to our friends at Walmart. The Roblox Developers Conference was super fun. We weren't there in person, but I was following through we knew so many people over there. Really interesting. I think my biggest things here were a couple of things that came out of the keynote. One of them was kind of using AI to create 3D virtual backgrounds, like very easily in like text to prompt. So making it easier for people to develop certain things. That was interesting to me. Then the other part was also kind of, I don't know what to call it, like an engine of sorts, like a platform, an engine, an offering that Roblox has partnered with Sawhorse on for brands to be able to create experiences. So that was really interesting as well. And then the biggest thing that I walked away with, which I am so incredibly excited, was Roblox partnering with Shopify to enable virtual to physical commerce. That is massive. I don't think people understand. This is a paradigm shift for e-commerce. This is a crazy opportunity for creators. This is unlocking new commerce models that we haven't seen before, that for the younger generation especially is massive and of a massive appeal.
Yeah, this might be the first time that I've felt like what we always saw as the gaming world, and I don't mean it as like, open world gaming. I mean it like the vision that we had for Second Life, the vision that was out there for the metaverse, all of this stuff, like this is actually really close to what everyone has been kind of talking about for the last decade, of how gaming can become not only immersive, but also a place where you have your friends and you do your shopping and you have this transfer of reality, for better or worse, depending on your opinion of it. This is really where we all thought it was going to eventually go. So to finally see these type of partnerships is great, because it shows Roblox breaking out of their comfort zone and working hand in hand with companies that do what they do very well. And I feel like that's kind of always been something that Roblox has been hesitant to. They've been very protective for good reason, because a lot of it has to do with how they interact with like the youth and with children, and it has to be well defined and well controlled. And that's why they are as big as they are, is because they take that part seriously. But to be able to partner with a company like Shopify, or a company that has such a astounding catalog of product like Walmart, that's just kind of where we all kind of hoped this would eventually lead. So this is a big deal, and it's not getting the press that it deserves. It's a thing that's going to happen, and you're going to think it was always like this. You know what I mean?
For younger kids, like it always was. I saw it was playing in Adopt Me and I wanted the shirt and I got it, right? Yeah, it's just, you didn't have to wait. So I'm excited. I also think it opens up, like I said, new commerce models, new commerce opportunities, more monetization for creators. And then I think for IP holders, huge, huge opportunity as well for, the Netflixes, the NASCARs, like whoever is an IP holder, the Beetlejuices of the world, great opportunities for monetization as well.
It is. It really is. And they're seeing a relative increase in their own stock portfolio, which had been low in the past, and now it's starting to gain traction again. And so I think that this is this proof that they're on the right direction. And if they can hold on to it, it'll be great.
Definitely. So Roblox, congratulations to everyone there, to Ed Basuki, to Winnie, to Stephanie, to Christina, all the friends that we have at Roblox as well, for an amazing developers conference. Hopefully we'll be there next year. Maybe we could do a live taping. So we'll see what happens. But we're big fans here of Roblox and what they're doing on the platform. So I do want to kind of go to the gaming story you and I were talking about before we started recording that you think is really relevant and important. So I'll let you lead this one, because this is obviously more your territory.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more whispers about Nintendo finally releasing the Switch 2. We don't know that's what it's going to be called, but that's currently what the internet is going to call it, because what else are we going to call it? But it looks really promising, as all signs point towards manufacturing is already in production. Hopefully that means an announcement. We believe, the internet believes, all tech blogs and gaming blogs seem to believe that this leads to an announcement happening within the next month or so of whatever the next generation of Nintendo hardware is going to be. Out of all of that, of course, leaks happen, and the current leak that has broke last week is not much of a surprise, as it is something that Nintendo's had a long history in doing, but it looks like this should be a backwards compatible device. not only in your eShop downloads for games, but likely in if you're holding actual cartridges, physical copies of your games as well, which is a big deal for me. I prefer a physical library over a digital one. So we'll see what the specs look like. Really, I think what the world is expecting and hoping for is a Nintendo Switch with just more power, because even when the Nintendo Switch came out in 2017, it was basically a very underpowered device that they squeezed every drip and drop of power out of. So to see a substantial boost in power would just bring much higher fidelity, stronger, longer, better games to that device. If they can do something that's comparable to the Steam Deck that came out a couple of years ago, I think that they'll have a home run. And other than that, we don't know. Nintendo does sometimes drop surprises in hardware. They are definitely a company that's willing to experiment with new hardware designs while they keep their catalog very strong and safe with their intellectual properties. So within the next month, we'll probably have more Nintendo news. I'm excited for it. We'll see what happens.
You'll keep us in check. You'll let us know.
I will.
You're always on the Nintendo beat. I feel like that's your beat.
I am. It's such an interesting company. Like, they're just so interesting with what they do. I don't think that they're such a well-established publisher and gaming company that I don't feel like tech blogs or tech podcasts really give them the attention that they deserve for how much they've pushed hard. They're such an interesting hardware company that routinely takes underpowered hardware and squeezes more out of it than anyone thought was possible. And they take risks at the same time somehow. Like, the Nintendo Switch was a very risky device. I didn't fully understand it until I had one. I was like, oh no, I get this. This is great. So see, there you go.
Well, we've got like 4 in my house. Everyone has a Switch in my house. They go everywhere when we travel. So, okay. So you'll keep us on track with that. Before wrapping up, Lee, I do want to kind of mention something which, is definitely not tech related, but I think is important and relevant. So this episode drops on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on how soon our editing team can get it done. But we're recording on Tuesday, September 10th. Tomorrow is September 11th. It is the 23rd anniversary commemoration of the terrorist attacks on the towers, the Pentagon. So I just, as someone who lives in the Washington, D.C. area, I just want to tell all the survivors and the heroes out there that we remember you and we appreciate your courage. And, definitely, I cannot believe it's been 23 years. We remember you and we appreciate your courage. So, not to end on a sad note, but I think it is important to mention that. Anyway, Lee, what are you looking forward to next week?
I'm really just looking forward to seeing the dust settle and then we can understand more about what happened with the Apple event. Maybe we'll get some more information from it. And we've got just another week of waiting until Meta Connect. So more speculation to come. That's really
more speculation. I cannot wait. So next week it'll be Snap Summit, which I think is really exciting. We'll see what comes, what news we get from that. And then, Meta Connect, I think you and I are kind of revving up our engines for that. That's going to be really exciting. I really think, like I said before, I really, really think they're going to wow us. I think they're going to bring something to us that is just going to blow everyone's minds. I'm very bullish on Reality Labs and kind of what they're going to show us with AR.
I am too. Until then. All
right. Well, thanks everyone for listening to Tech Magic. We hope you will come back next week. Let us know if you have any questions, any comments, anything you want us to cover, let us know. All right. Thanks for listening.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
What makes a leader worth following?
What should you really care about in your job as technology is changing so quickly?
Is it just going to be about machines talking to other machines? I mean, should you quit your job and start something on your own? What would that take?
What does success and risk look like when we're all at the starting gate together?
These are the questions we answer each week on Lead Human with Jack Myers and Tim Spengler.
Join us each week and subscribe at your favorite podcast platform and YouTube.
We'll tell stories. We'll hear from some of the best, and we'll try to figure this out together.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.